Okay, thank you very much. A very good morning to everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. And let me first thank the organizers of this meeting that did really such a big effort to make it possible to be with you. I really appreciate it, and I always like to be in this type of meetings. Because please relax. I am not the expert on non-wood forest products. The field is so vast. There are so many topics, so many products. I mean, it's too much to be put in one head, definitely not in mine. Every experience from everywhere it comes is valuable and will enrich our discussions. So let's put it all together, have common access, and we will gain everybody on it. Okay, 20 minutes. I will go forward and try to stick to the essentials. Maybe it might be useful to very quickly explain a little bit what FAO is, the Food and Agriculture Organization, so we understand that we are not a kind of a deus ex machina and can do everything. We're very limited. How it works? Yes, it works. I mean, some of the results are here. Very quickly, maybe go about terms, concept, things like that. However, I must say, when I read the cost document, the background information is extremely well done. I mean, nothing new. So I think we can refer to that document as well, because it's a very nice synthesis on the European perspective. And to be very honest, the perspective from the other continents is not so much different. There may be different focuses, some emphasis a bit different here and there, but the common issues are very much the same. Then very quickly, what is FAO doing on non-wood forest products? And then where can we help you? Okay, FAO. Let me first give a little bit history. After the last World War, the nations came together and decided never again a thing like that. So they put up a kind of a United Nations system, which has two big type of organizations. One is the political stuff, avoid escalation of conflicts. You probably know of the UN Council, Security Council and things like that, the blue helms being sent all over. And then we have another big chunk, which are the technical organizations. In an effort that when countries can help each other, get more entangled with each other, the chances that they start fighting each other might be less. So this is a little bit the origin how the Food and Agriculture Organization, as one of the big technical organizations for the agriculture field. I mean, agriculture in the way we consider this is in its very broad sense. Farming, livestock, fishery, forestry, commodities, trade. So it's really in its broadest sense. The same exists for industry with UNIDO. The same exists for communications, telephone, media, and so on. So there's a whole range of technical organizations within the UN that exist on thematic areas. If you really would like to know more about all this, you're very much welcome to go to the website of FAO, and when you click in About, somewhere on the left corner up, there's About, you will find all that history. Now, how does FAO work? Just remember the last three words there, because we are a bit short on time. First of all, it's country-driven. It's not some nerd in the FAO headquarters that decides what the world has to do. It's quite the opposite. It's the world who decides what their organization has to do for them. So it's country-driven, decentralization. We have regional conferences. The decision-making is actually a match between regional conferences on a 2-yearly basis, which happen for Europe, for Asia, for Africa, North America, South America, and where decisions will be made with the representatives of these countries. That means, I mean, for your countries, most probably it would be someone from the Ministry of Agriculture, and then the country decides who it takes with in their delegations. For example, if your country decides to take on board representatives from the private sector, from the food industry, from the fisheries, whatever they want, it's the country who decides. It's not FAO who decides. We just offer room, facilities, meetings that people can discuss about thematical issues. The decision-making is on a 2-yearly basis. So every 2 years we have these meetings. Today, if you would click on FAO now, you would actually see we have our global conference ongoing. So the global conference is actually the summary where all these thematic findings came in and the regional conference findings came in. So it's a kind of a compromise. What the Secretariat has been given as a mandate for the next 2 years to work on. Okay. If you really would like to know more about all that stuff, you can also find it on the webpage. I mean, you will find on the governing bodies, you will see how it works. You can even find who are the representatives of your country if you wish to contact these people, because there is an English expression that says, only creeping doors get oil. If you don't make noise, you never get oil. We also have to make noise or we don't get money. It's the same with FAO. No revolution, just lobbying. Terms, issues, topics. As I said, the document of cost. I mean, if you go in the background reading, you probably have done all that. It's a very good document. It's very well set for the European context, and I really agree. I mean, some of the key issues, but they're not really that important. I mean, on terms. Doesn't matter what term you use in your country as long as it's very clearly specified what exactly it covers. Yeah, what's a non-wood forest product research? From which country are you? From Spain. Would you consider mosquitoes as a non-wood forest product in Spain? No, let's be open. I mean, there is no limit. Only the, I mean, imagination, we don't know. They may not yet have considered it, but a time may come. So let's be open. I mean, that was basically a joke I put in here. It's not a joke because we did something on edible insects. So we'll talk about that later. And then, does it matter? I mean, if you go out in the street here in Lisbon and you ask to your taxi driver, you ever heard about non-wood forest products? When I came in here in Lisbon, I asked that to my taxi driver. First, he wanted to know to which hotel you want to go. When we were settling that, I asked him, do you know anything about Produtos Forestais no Madeireiros? Madai. So, does it really matter? It may matter to us, but does it matter to the people in the street? Let's have a little look about that later as well. Okay. Well, when we talk about terms, scope, definitions, and things like that, I'm talking from a global perspective. Now, many countries have different terms. It doesn't matter. For example, in a country like India, they have legally set the document in their legislation, the term minor forest produce. No problem. And according to the Indian law, if they go in the forest and they open a stone quarry and they take out the stones and they sell these stones are considered a minor forest produce. No problem, as long as we know that when we would aggregate statistical data, we can take the value of the stones out. You know what I mean? Okay. So it is important that when we talk about terms, we also look at for what purpose they are used and then at what level. Because when we go to the national level, we already get issues such as legislation. And just talk to lawyers, how specific they can be about a term. And then, of course, statistics, they're even more precise when it comes to terms, because they actually have to fill in values in boxes. And these boxes must be very clearly set, otherwise it doesn't help them. And of course, when we move into international context, where basically we would have non-timber, non-wood forest products, particularly when we have trade issues, statistical issues, and legal instruments, binding or not binding. However, terminology becomes important at that level. Okay, just for your information, I mean, you don't need to take too much. Key examples, of course, foods are the most important thing. FAO did, well, of course, FAO is the Food and Agriculture Organization, so we are a bit biased. But according to the data we have, food is by far the most important issue. Well, these are things which were also very clearly explained in the project document. Only the last thing is a bit important, that we can still improve our methodologies. We can still improve our tools, data. And of course, it has to be in a matter that the effort is comparable to the cost. I mean, when the cost of gathering data is more than the value of the product itself, it becomes a bit weird. Also, we have to see the perspective, for example, of governments. Very often governments, they tax a farmer on his potatoes, and with the tax money they get there, they can do something back to the farmer. But how are you going to tax non-wood forest products gatherers when it's in the informal sector? You don't even know where they are. Well, sometimes you know, sometimes you don't. So still a lot of work to be done here. So I think we are in the right place. There's still a lot of work. Yeah, a couple of issues. I think just to set the picture a little bit, I mean, particularly domestication is an interesting thing, because sometimes I would say within the conceptualization of what is a non-wood forest products, you may have views who are extreme and say, no, only wild gathering, no domestication. However, we have to consider the views a bit in a kind of a continuum. It can go from semi-domesticated to really wild gathering. Particularly in the foods, we see a trend going from the forest to the farm. Technology. You know, technology, I just take this here. A plastic bag, €1 that's the value and the cost of it. One of the most practical inventions of the last century. When I go to Central Africa, these people use plastic bag now. And they forgot, they don't use their rattan bags, their natural fiber bags anymore, because this is a huge, fantastic thing. I can put it in my pocket here, and I can just go. It can be wet, it can be, I mean, it's a great thing. But traditional uses of packing material or a bag, such as rattan or natural fibers, are being substituted, so becoming obsolete. Extinct is also an issue, particularly for medicinal plants. Another issue which I think is important, I just want to flag, maybe it's not any longer relevant in Europe, is the social justice. Let me give the example of the Amazon with extrativismo. You're probably aware of that people actually were surviving by going in the Amazon and collecting Brazil nuts, natural rubber, and things like that. That was basically almost like a slave system. That was socially not very just. These people had no other opportunity to survive than to gather in the forest whatever they could find for their livelihoods. And it had to be very cheap, so they were actually in a system which was socially not just. We don't want to repeat this. It had also happened in Europe before. We don't have to be blind. Just go to the southern part of France and look at the pine trees. Even in Germany, pine trees were tapped. In many places, people who did it had no income, had no job, had no government job, had no pension, had no social security, had nothing. They had to do this because that was probably one of the only ways they had a chance to find some extra income. Many of these things in Europe have no longer, I would say, a work opportunity because people improve their livelihoods and have other ways of social security. However, in many countries, this is still an issue, that many of the gathering of non-wood forest products is not so socially just. Another issue, economic, environmental issues, of course. Let's say globalization. I think we're going to see it in the next slide. When I talked about globalization, you know, when you go to Suriname, you can import bamboo furniture that is cheaper than the locally made bamboo furniture. So why would the people in Suriname go and in the forest and collect their bamboo if they just go to the shop there and buy the Chinese ready-made stuff? So that's a part of globalization. Well, deforestation is obvious. Social economies, I think particularly in Europe, rural exodus. There are still a lot of people living in the countryside, but they're not living from the land. That's a big difference. You can live in the countryside because you have a pension, you have a job, you have something else, and you enjoy the countryside. But if you have to live from the land in the countryside, that's a big difference. Less and less people, I mean, I'm not talking about farming, I'm talking about gathering, pastoralism, mountain agriculture. Stagnation, that's an interesting one, because if you look at the sector is not growing, because we have winners, mainly in the food, and losers, particularly in the fiber and some of that. and scattered production over large areas with many producers. A key example would be Brazil nuts. 40,000 tons of Brazil nuts every year produced in an area bigger than Europe by something like 200,000 caboclos. How do you reach them? How do you know where the nuts came from? Maybe the cell phone can help us on that. So maybe technology could help it. So it's a huge challenge, but it has a cost as well. Okay. Well, some of that, I think, we spoke about it also, and we saw already in the document. Let me go a bit over this, because, okay, now FAO, that's probably a bit more. How much time do I still have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, well, let's do FAO in 5 minutes. We can do it. The budget on FAO is about 500 million a year. The forestry department within that big budget is 3%. That's about the average of the world. Even in a country like Canada, the forestry sector is more or less 2.6% of the gross national product. Within the forestry department, non-wood forest products is 1%. So that is actually a kind of a reflection of the real world when it comes to money, and money is still an issue. Mission.
1 out of 3.
Yeah.
30%.
Yeah, $200,000 a year. Okay. But that's, I mean, okay, that's just to give you the setting. Don't get depressed. This is regular program money, which means this is what actually countries provide as a kind of a guarantee that the program will continue, the building will continue, the staffing will continue, but actually no money in the pocket. But we get money, I mean, in the FAO, not only myself, but other colleagues, through donor funding, through projects, through what we call extra budgetary funding. So we get a lot of things like that. So the key issues we do is gathering statistics on production and trade, information sharing and networking. An example here is international expert meetings. I mean, later on we will go to the website, you will see an example of that. And technical assistance for projects, developing countries and so on. Good. When it comes to FRA, at the end of the presentation I will show you 2 Excel sheets. The FRA means the Forest Resource Assessment. And that also, when you go to the web page, you just go to Google. Google is a very interesting thing. Google, and you click in FAO Forest Resource Assessment 2010. Bam! It's going to put you immediately on that website, much faster than I giving it here and you guys writing it down. And the country reports are very interesting, because in the country reports, they have a section on non-wood forest products, also the European countries. Is this linked to the internet? But I think we don't have time, but it doesn't matter, because you may do that at home. Probably the slides could. Oh, okay, no, maybe we don't have time. I don't want to take too much time. So awareness raising. Awareness raising is a key issue, because many people are not even aware. I mean, how many of you would be aware that 2.5 billion people on this planet are eating insects in the same way as we eating shrimps? So who are we to look down on the food habits of half of the planet? That's awareness raising, and the potential it has for human feed and for animal feed. I mean, we can feed our chickens. If we don't like to eat them, we can give it to our chickens, who basically have eaten insects since the time they existed. Awareness raising. Technical knowledge. Well, this is one you probably know. Resource assessment of non-wood forest products. Some time ago, this is a kind of publications we do, non-wood forest products from conifer forests. I mean, more for boreal, northern Europe. We have similar things for southern Europe as well. Enterprise development on specific products. I mean, I brought a couple of, this is non-wood forest product from broadleaf forest. Yeah. Wild edible mushrooms. Bees and their role, I mean, wild honey, no? Bees and their role in livelihoods. Just a couple of examples. Trade restrictions. That also exist. I'm just putting them here. I mean, they're all available on the website. You can download them for free, but I'm just putting them here. Medicinal plants, and I think I just took natural colorants and dye stuffs. So that's, let's say, bringing information together, awareness raising, institutional capacity, helping country capacity, policy and regulatory frameworks, particularly when it comes to trade and trade restrictions, and technical assistance, particularly when it comes to field projects. For example, we have field projects in Central Africa where we help the governments and people to better use their natural resources there as well. If you would click on these, you would go to the website of these with information and things like that. Awareness, cross-sectorial approach, technical skills, good. I quickly would like to go now to 2 Excel files, because one is on Europe, and yes, thank you, Luis. If maybe put first the one on the global, or you may open them both at the same time. Yeah, the 2 Excel sites, you can open them at the same time. Right. So in the FRA, Forest Resource Assessment, there is an assessment done also on the non-wood forest products contribute, and it's the countries who do that. I mean, if you go to the documents on FRA, right. This is, can you open the other one as well? Yeah. Because this is the one from Europe, it's the value, and now let's go on the one, the global one. The other one, just the other one. Yeah, that's the other one, Luis. Yeah.
This one? I can't read.
Yeah, you can see it from here. Yeah, just try. This one? Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Now, I just wanted to show you to this because we have 14 categories. How you classify these things at the global level. And it also became relevant within Europe. Because if we swap, I mean, you see here the country category food, fodder, raw material, for, I think I forgot, it's probably for construction and things like that. All these classifications, explanation how it is in a background note for the FRA, how they did that. If we swap to the one from Europe, there it's giving you the value. I just want to finish with that one. Yeah. So here, I mean, we would have the value as reported by the countries for the year 2005. But category 1 was, I think, I forgot now what it was, food, I think, food, edible issues, and then so on. The green one are the plants. From category 9 is the animal, like honey and hunting, skins, and all this type of stuff. So all this is available on the internet, on the web. I think I have to finish now, no? Right? And or you can just get it here from Louis. Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to be with you, and thanks, Louis, for getting me here.